G'day everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight I'm doing my long-awaited pumpkin pancakes. So, pancakes is one of the earliest recipes I learned and had it memorized from a young age. This is slightly modified due to the pumpkin that we're adding into it. So we're going to go with 3/4 cup of plain flour, 1/4 cup of the pumpkin flour, and I'll throw a link up to the video on making that one. Quarter teaspoon of salt, or a big pinch, which is what I normally do. 1 tablespoon of sugar. I generally use raw sugar. And we're going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, by adding the baking soda, rather than using a self-raising flour, I go from something that's partially going to rise to something that's fully going to rise. Normally, if I'm just making pancakes, I'll use self-raising flour. But because of the pumpkin flour in it, which hasn't got any raising agent, I'll use the baking soda. All right, so all our dry ingredients in, just mix them all together. Okay, now we're going to go in with a 1.25 cups of milk. Normally with pancakes, again, I'd use a cup of milk, but because it's got the pumpkin flour in it, which is a dehydrated product, I'm going to go with the extra 1/4 cup. And 1 egg, which the girls were kind enough to lay for me today. All right, now we're just going to beat that all up, and it will be fairly liquid at this stage. Okay, there we go. All the lumps are out of it. Right, now normally I could just start cooking from here with the self-raising flour, but because the pumpkin is that dehydrated product, I'm going to have to leave it sit for a little bit, just so the pumpkin flour can absorb the moisture that it's going to absorb, and that way it's going to cook into it nicely. Otherwise it's going to not absorb it in. We're going to end up with too much moisture in it and dry bits through it. So I'm just going to give it probably about 15 minutes just to let it absorb in, and then we're going to add some lemon juice just to help that baking soda to rise. That's why I haven't used the baking powder, because it would start doing its rising already. With adding the baking soda and then later adding the lemon juice, I can let that absorption happen without any rising happening. Here we are, it's sat for 15 minutes. As you can see, it's thickened up a fair bit. All right, now we're going to add the acid, which is going to help to make that baking soda react. So 1 small lemon, just put that juice in there. And just whisk that in. Okay, so there we are, all set to go. Now across to the stove we go. A little bit of baking paper and some butter. Just want a thin coat on the pan, just to make it nice and non-stick. And ladle out our pancake. So we'll leave that until we start seeing the bubbles come up through this side, and then flip it over to the other side. Okay, there we go, we've got the bubbles coming up, so it's time for it to go over. Nice and brown. And we'll just let it cook for a little bit on that side. Okay, there we go. Other side cooked. Right, I will go through, cook the rest of them, and join you in a second for serving up. Okay, there we have a nice little stack of pancakes. There's still more to cook, but I'm getting hungry. So we're going to start right there. Now the ideal topping for this, in my books, a little bit of butter. And also a little bit of my homemade pumpkin butter, which I haven't put the recipe out for yet, but that's going to be coming out soon. So there we go, there's the perfect toppings on a pumpkin pancake. And of course the all important test is, how does it taste? As you can see, it looks absolutely delicious. And it tastes it too. Thank you very much everyone for watching, and bye for now.